So, I found something weird. Remember that spider anime that came out a couple years ago? The one where our main character gets isekai'd as the weakest critter alive, is constantly on the verge of death, and has to cannibalize her family to survive?
Oh, Jesus!
Yeah, that one. Turns out, it's pretty big in China. And I'm not talking, oh honey, 2 inches is fine, big. I'm talking big. The show has over 300 million views on Chinese Netflix, 6 million fans, and dominated every anime to come out that season. Wow, that's not even close. And that's weird, cause on Mal, the same show didn't do nearly as well. In fact, it ranked all the way down here, sandwiched between a skateboarding anime and one about furries. Check this out. Here's the 2 fan bases side by side. Now, I don't know about you, but this looks kinda strange. Sus, even. Did they release a better version of the show exclusively for China? Looks the same to me. Maybe it just translated really well?
Man, I really love being toxic.
Nope, not that either. Something smells fishy here, so I started digging. And the answers I found will
destroy China's economy.
you
Police flooded the streets to crush.
away.
Undercurrent of dissatisfaction brewing.
Today, we're diving into the socio-economic struggles of Chinese Zoomers, reliving one of China's wildest social movements of the last decade, and taking a walk in the shoes of the CCP. All to figure out how this little spider blew up in one of the biggest countries in the world. It all starts here. China loves anime. They know what's up. You wouldn't believe how massive their anime industry is. We're talking bigger than all of Europe combined, and twice the size of the American market. Now add that obsession for anime with the country's enormous consumer population, and you've got a recipe for success. Like, it's not uncommon for a show that makes it past the Chinese border to suddenly explode in popularity overnight. But that isn't what happened here. No, this was years in the making. Behold, China in 1970. Compared to the rest of the developed world at the time, the Chinese weren't doing so hot. While everyone else was zooming around in their cars and living in skyscrapers, this guy was riding his donkey to work. Fast forward to today though, and China is this modern metropolis filled with industrial drive and dollar store electronics. Which is pretty crazy when you realize all this happened in the same time it took the UK to build out one stinky train line. Ew. But for a transformation as aggressive as this to happen, sacrifices had to be made. And it just so happens, some of those sacrifices would unwittingly help our little spider blow up decades later. See, living in China isn't all sunshine and rainbows. Because of their relentless push to modernize, competition has become a staple of daily life. Zoomers have it the worst. A lot of them work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. They call it the 996. Cute, right? It gets worse. Salaries are terrible, starting at around $700 a month. The average house, though, costs upwards of a cool $1,000,000. But wait, there's more. Most Zoomers are saddled with crippling student loan debt. And on top of that, they're also expected to financially support their aging parents, all while being pressured by society to get married and have grandkids. Imagine a spring being squeezed at both ends by a pair of massive, invisible hands. That's what the day-to-day experience feels like for the vast majority of young adults in China. And this widespread feeling of deep dissatisfaction is exactly what gave our little spider her wings. Don't get me wrong, the show was popular for a whole lot of reasons. I mean, we could gush about the humor, unique storylines, or just how darn cute our main girl is. Who's your good girl? But I'm not gonna waste your time. After analyzing hundreds of Google translated comments, I found it all boils down to this. In the show, our main character re-rolls life and lands on possibly the worst stats of all time. She's reincarnated as a level 1 spider in the depths of hell. Chances of survival? Slim to none. But does she give up? Hell no. Our little munchkin improvises, adapts, and overcomes. She knows painfully well how stacked the odds are against her, but she gives it her all anyway. And that really struck a chord. The struggling Zoomers in China saw themselves in her. Spawned into a hostile environment, rife with competition and no way out, they related to her hard. You can see it in comments like, "Fight on, little spider, keep going. Spider inspires me, but the brave line gives labor? Brave line pulls crotch, and it has been seen." Look, I know Google Translate isn't perfect and all, but what the hell is a brave line, and why does it pull crotch? Anyway, you get the idea. Kumo, the spider that grabbed life by the balls, despite insurmountable odds, became this symbol of hope for Zoomers all over China. But what if I told you that all this was playing conveniently into the hands of the Chinese government? Here's where it gets wacky. See, around the same time our Spider anime came out, one of the biggest social movements in recent Chinese history was ramping up, turning heads all the way up the CCP. No joke, this thing caused so many waves that the Chinese government, who are not exactly known for their willingness to compromise, introduced new laws to appease the people complaining. What was the movement? It was called
lying flat.
Lie flat. A lying flat revolution was started by...
Zoomers in China were so tired of the immense competition and grind, they just stopped trying, effectively dropping out of society, ceasing all productive activity, and just doing the bare minimum to survive. This man lives off instant ramen. This one interviews for jobs once every few months and quits the second he gets his first paycheck. I guess that's what happens when there's too much pressure. Eventually, you break. Now, if you're the Chinese government, this is bad news, because it means there's less people striving towards the Chinese dream, less manpower at your disposal, fewer bullets in the chamber, and who wants a society where everyone's just lazing around anyway? They had to think quick. The CCP scoured the internet, scrubbing every last post linking back to the movement. But it wasn't enough. As threads got taken down, new ones popped up. It was like this never-ending battle of whack-a-mole. They needed to get on the offensive. Here's where we start cooking. What if our innocent little spider was a part of the CCP's strike force all along? Like it or not, our anime sold the perfect message to counter the lying flat movement. Life is unfair, but don't give up anyway? Right on the money. Oh, and bonus points for being Japanese. Now, I'm not saying that the Chinese government was forcing depressed Zoomers to watch the show. But isn't it the slightest bit curious how this anime, where our protagonist gets literally reincarnated, managed to waltz past the national border despite China's isekai ban? Don't get me wrong, I'm not claiming there's undeniable proof of official trend manipulation, but I would be lying if I said this kind of thing hasn't happened before. The Chinese government has a history of influencing the media. In fact, one of the strategies they used to stop depressed Zoomers from lying flat was to make Chinese media corporations blast out motivational content to cheer them up. Hell, there's even been times the government outright endorsed social trends for spreading the right message, which sent their visibility through the stratosphere. Sound familiar? Look, like I said, I don't have hard evidence for this, but when I see an isekai anime about never giving up explode in popularity right when the CCP is fighting against lying flat, well, let's just say it wouldn't surprise me to find out that they maybe, just maybe, gave our girl a little push behind the scenes. So, if life's got you down and you feel like you're drowning sometimes, like our Zoomer friends over in China, don't forget, even something as small as a spider in the right place at the right time can make the biggest of splashes. Samsung Spider.